Hello, welcome to my channel, and today we are going to read chapter 3 of A Christmas Shoes. But we're going to cut it in sections, so let us begin. Man is born broken, he lives by mending, the grace of God is good. Eugene O'Neill. My mother, Elaine Layden, had thrown a tree decorating party at Christmas for as long as I could remember. When my brother Hugh and I were small, the party would begin on first thing on Saturday morning. Mom would rouse out of bed with the smell of bacon and pancakes in the shape of snowmen. Then the entire family would load into the station wagon and head to Hurtley's farm. John Hurtley was an old friend of my father's. For a trek deep in the woods, my father, Albert, wielded the axe, occasionally letting one of us take a careful whack at the prized tree. Even later, when he acquired a small gasoline-powered chainsaw, my father insisted that the Christmas tree be hewn by axe, an antique double-bladed tool passed down to my grandfather, because it was tradition. One time, Dad and I promised to position the tree while Mom and Hugh braved the coal attic for the abundance of Christmas ornaments and decorations Mom had collected over the years. Mom sang and danced with Dad to Bing Crosby's White Christmas, while Hugh and I bustily continued with the tree, pretending not to see our parents' silliness. I cannot ever recall seeing my mother happier than she was on that tree decorating day. A joy radiated from her and even from my father, who routinely conked out at 6:30 every evening. After getting up at 5 every morning to go to work, the whole family would get caught up in Mom's ecstasy and would sing and decorate until every last ornament had learned to call home. After we were grown and my father had died, Mom continued her tree decorating parties with another widow in the neighborhood. Just because they were alone, they didn't mean they couldn't enjoy the beauty of Christmas. When their grandchildren came along, the parties regained some of the traditional momentum, with the exception that we'd buy the tree from the supermarket parking lot instead of cutting one down from Hadler's farm, which saved time, and besides, the trees were inflammably fuller and more symmetrical than the Schofield wild trees my father used to drag home. I have always had a fake tree, so. A few weeks before Christmas, Kate and I loaded the girls into the Mercedes and drove the short distance to my mother's house. Mom had lived in the same brick Tudor house for more than 40 years, and even though she was 68 and lived alone, she insisted on decorating the house of her home as a winter wonderland. Garlands of holly and ivy draped over the doorway, and a huge evergreen wreath hung predominantly in the center of the door, and center on the door, and on each of the front windows, tied with red velvet ribbons. Bright electric candles threw out the brilliant light in the center of each window. Strands of small twinkling lights wrapped each yew and jumper and evergreen shrub, as well as each tree in the front yard that could be reached with a ladder. The bigger trees provided the backup for the nativity scene, complete with lighting. Ooh. When we were little boys, Hugh and I helped my mother set up the nativity. She brought the handcrafted nativity years ago at a yard sale. Though my mother's home was filled with magnificent antiques, George Plain, the $20 nativity, was one of her most prized possessions. As kids, my brother and I saw the set is a little more than a collection of large wooden dolls, but each year Mom would explain the meaning of the Nativity to us. This is the most miraculous thing about Christ's life, boys, she'd say. The most miraculously thing isn't that he rose from the grave. He's the Son of God. You'd expect God to be able to raise his own son for the grave, don't you think? And we would eagerly nod our heads in agreement. But not the most spectacular thing at all. What's spectacular and mind-boggling is that God would want to leave the beauty of heaven to come to live here as a man. And you think that since Jesus was the King of Kings, that he'd at least be born in a castle somewhere and not in some dirty barn. That's what's amazing, she explained, turning Joseph ever so slightly towards Mary. That's why Christmas is so special. Jesus came as a baby to Bethlehem, a baby that would grow up to live as a servant, not as a king. Plugging in the floodlights that beamed over the back of the shepherds onto the baby in the manger, she continued. She continued. That's the beauty and wonder of Christmas, and that's why we set up the Nativity for so long as we can. To remind us, isn't that a nice reminder, boys? And we'll eagerly nod our heads again. Since my father died, Dalton Gregory, Mom's neighbor of 20 years, had helped haul, hang, and string the outdoor decorations. He shoveled her walk and drive when it snowed, though she never asked him to. No small commitment in the winter of 1985. Dalton and his family were the first black family to move to the neighborhood, arriving in 1965. And when moving trucks backed into the driveway, my mother stood ready to work, holding a platter of sandwich and chips. When they moved in, Dalton worked as a high school history teacher, and his wife, Hadley, worked in the intensive care unit at the hospital as a nurse. In 1976, Dalton made superintendent of schools, and even though his job kept him busier than ever, he still marked on his calendar the day he would help my mother decorate her house. 20 years separated then. But Mom, Dalton, and Heatley were more than just neighbors. They were friends. Dalton hunched over, singing his own simple strands of light along the porch rails. When I got out of the car, "Merry Christmas, Dalton. The house is award-winning as usual. Better be. Your mother worked me to death out here in the freezing cold." "Why do you do it every year, Dalton?" "Because there are 3 things I'm afraid of in life. My mother, my wife, and your mother. And at Christmas, I reversed the order." My mother swung through the front door and shouted, "Merry Christmas," loud enough to wake him. I'm not doing that. I don't know what I did. Merry Christmas, now loud enough to wake Hadley's patient in the ICU. Hannah and Lily ran to their grandmother, wrapping their tiny arms around her. "Here are my Christmas babies," Mom cried, kissing and squeezing them until they pulled away, giggling. Walking to the edge of her driveway, she teased, "Where are your Christmas babies, Dalton?" "Just give my kids time," he said wearily, shaking his head. "One day they'll figure out how to make babies, and you won't be the only obnoxious grandparent in the neighborhood. Maybe not, but I'll still hold the title of being first. The first and the loudest," he laughed. "Are you and Hetty coming over to lunch tomorrow?" she asked, rocking Lily back and forth on top of her feet. "I didn't know we were invited." "I just invited you." No, she said. "Then we're coming," he replied, waving his arms to shoo her away. Mom led her broad into the house, which was very much like Christmas, like a Christmas book. Bobby, I'm not in the picture. Much like a Christmas botanical garden, with processes, holly, and a garland of pine brow, filling the huge foil. As Kate and I entered through the heavy... Oh, what the hell are you doing? And a garlic filled. As Kate and I entered our heavy cherry door, Mom pointed out the mistletoe hanging just above us. Trying to avoid any awkwardness, we clumsily kissed Mom on both sides of her face. Not me, Mom joked, pointing at the mistletoe. You're supposed to be to kiss each other. But Kate and I were already taking off our coats, preparing for the day of December decorating. Mom promptly slid my coat back on, sending me out with a handful of money for the tree. Ferguson's on the other side of town has the prettiest one, but they're the most expensive, she instructed. Maybe you should try Dallas Lost first. The trees there were smaller, but the price better. Where do you want me to go, Mother? I said. Better get it at Dally's. It's closer. I'll be back in a minute. No, wait, she screamed. Go to Ferguson. I can't stand the idea of a small tree at Christmas. Get a big, pretty one at Ferguson. You sure? She paused for a moment and thought over the advantages and disadvantages of each lot. Yes, she finally squirmed. Get a big, beautiful one at Ferguson's. As it closed the front door behind me, Mom led Kate, Hannah, and Lily to the attic to retrieve their decorations. As they unwrapped each ornament, Mom would say, your grandfather gave this to me on our first Christmas together, or your father made this for me when he was your age. Downstairs in the living room, the girls presented their grandmother with the ornaments they'd made with Kate's help. I'll come home the night they made them. That's fine. They made them, asking Kate the next morning about the nest left on the dining room table. Kate always knew I hated cluttered, messy rooms and accused her of leaving things in disarray on purpose. I think my mother sensed something was wrong between us the moment we walked in the door, but she also knew that neither one of us would want to talk about it, so she made as much small talk as possible. What are you doing in school, Lily? She asked our dark-haired 6-year-old. Learning about bugs, she said squirmily, tugging on her sweater as she claimed, itchy like the dickens. Ew. I don't think I want to learn about bugs, Mom said, scratching up her face. I don't either, but they make you anyway, Lily shrugged. How's Robert's work, Kate? The two women had always had a good relationship. Mom knew not to meddle, and Kate always appreciated her mother-in-law. What I don't know about my business anyway, approach to her marriage. It's the same. Busy, Kate replied, head deep in a box of decorations. Has Gwen had her Christmas cry yet? I guess so, Kate laughed. Will he be taking any time off for the holidays? Christmas Day, Kate answered without looking at her. I don't know if he has any other schedule. You know how busy he is. Daddy says he has a stack of work this high on his desk, Hannah explained, standing on tiptoes and holding her hand far above her head. Mom would withhold judgment until later, but she intended to wring my arrogant, ambiguous, and selfish neck when I got back.